What was your inspiration for picking Dabrowski?
Well, Emma, it's a personal favourite short story of mine. It's been in my family for many, many years. My father passed it down to me, as I will pass it down to my son. Yeah, no, it was recommended to me by my dad. For some reason, he's got a bit of a fetish for Russian literature, so he recommended it to me, and I read it, and then Becky and Tash approached me, asking me in my infinite wisdom what book I thought we could adapt into a play, so I suggested Dabrowski. They read it and they loved it. It wasn't my first choice, actually. There was other books on the table.
We read a lot of things, didn't we? But we decided...
We do read a lot of things. It's all we do.
It just felt right, didn't it?
Yeah, we were considering The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. We considered some Edgar Allan Poe. There was more Russian stuff. Nikolai Gogol. Go and read that. That's
so what was it about Dabrowski, though, Becky, that made you think that was the better one to go with?
I still think it's relevant today. I find it really gripping. Yeah, just an excellent short story. We wanted something that we were excited to adapt, and a reason for adapting something.
It's really very good. I recommend it, because our play doesn't do it justice. So I recommend reading the original text if you can find it.
If you want to make any sense out of the actual show.
Absolutely. No, actually, don't read the original text, because then it'll make our show look better. But the original text is superlative.
So, you've written things together before. Where do you write best?
Well, we write in Becky's room for no reason other than she's very, very lazy and she likes me to come over, although she does make me cheese and crackers and cups of tea.
My room is covered in crumbs in many, many cups.
Yeah,
by the end of the process.
I mean, it's a cosy room in fairness, and my house is horrible, so it's really through lack of alternative. I am allergic to the IC, so I tend to avoid the IC.
But do you find it's a good space to produce like creative writing, or do you find yourself at all throughout the process getting writer's block or starting to get annoyed with each other or anything like that?
I don't think we get annoyed with each other at all, actually.
I mean, it's inherent in my personality that people get annoyed with me the instant I walk in a room, so I mean, annoyance was always going to be a factor. That we accepted that from
I've got
the start.
very high tolerance of Tom.
Yeah,
I've been working with him for
she works very well with me, actually.
Yeah,
but
I can take it.
We did get writer's block, mainly for the reason that we were adapting a book, so we never really thought, where do we have to go next, what do we have to do, because it was all on the page for us. The only kind of, I suppose, the only difficulty in it was pruning and kind of choosing what we would use from such a rich text.
And doing it justice, like I said, we loved the novel, we didn't want to...
How did you go about like cutting it? Like what sprang out about the sections that you decided to include?
I mean, without meaning to sound unoriginal and kind of unartistic about it, a lot of it was just down to practicality, because there's stuff you can and can't do on stage. I mean, in the book, not to ruin anything, there's fires and there's murders and rampaging horseback chases and things, and love. And these things aren't easy to capture. I don't know what love is. So it was kind of, we knew we wouldn't have much set, we knew we wouldn't have much time as well, and we didn't know how big the cast was going to be. So we kind of wrote a play for about a dozen people.
Yeah.
Mainly out of what we thought we could do, and we tried to capture the essence of the text. And since then, we've had to prune our first draft down more. We've had another couple of like all-day sessions where we've had to kind of chop and change to. Yeah, so it's changed, but yeah, I mean, there's been about 3 or 4 different
drafts,
incarnations of it, and we've just tried to get the key plot points in there, whilst adding a few spicy twists of our own, I hasten to add.
We've got a lot of extra stuff that isn't in the novel.
Yeah, we added a couple of murders, because...
One.
Yeah, a couple. We added a murder, and also an awkward sex scene that I desperately wanted to be a rape, but that had to kind of be...
You can't get a licence for that.
Yeah, you have to have a licence to rape. Who knew? I've been doing it freelance for ages.
So the bits that like weren't from the Dubrovsky original text? Like, what was your inspiration for that, or was it
Just kind of get overexcited.
You know what, kids? It just felt right. It just felt right. We had a hunch. You know, we were writing this bit in, and we were like, oh, should he kill him? And it was too irresistible to not.
We got very excited.
We did. And that's a nice thing, I suppose, because if people get as excited watching it as we did writing it, then that'll be kind of mission accomplished, I suppose. But there were bits where we were, you know, positively, you know, getting the words down on the laptop and being like, oh, this is really, you know, exciting.
High five in a really geeky way.
We didn't high five. I don't touch Becky.
Do you think that you write better as a pair? Because obviously that's not a very traditional way of writing as a twosome. Do you think you work better like that? Do you think this is a unique relationship?
Yeah,
or?
I mean, the day we tried to write separately, it was a bit disastrous. We tried to take separate scenes and edit them, and I don't think it works as well as when we're together.
Yeah,
I think we bounce off each other quite well.
Becky ended up crying and stuff when she tried to do it alone, so I had to be there to kind of stabilise her. And no, it's nice to have someone to keep you in check, because if I was left to my own devices, it would be horrible, exactly, and no one would like to see that.
I'm trying to think what the play would be.
Yeah, and Becky's a bit damp sometimes, so she needs someone to give her a bit of backbone. So together we round each other up, I suppose, and it becomes a more balanced, shall we say, play. So
it's a beautiful partnership.
Otherwise, you know, it would be ridiculous if either of us went on. I mean, last term I had a module where I worked on my own and wrote a play, and it just didn't go down too well. So I think sometimes you need someone with you to say, you know, Tom, that's not very good. Becky, you know, that could be better. And
do you think that what is it about writing adaptations that you like? What are the benefits of adapting, say, a short story that you have, or a novel, or a poem, etc.?
And a tag on to that, why short stories rather than like a novel? Apart from just length, obviously.
Well, we'll start with Jim's question.
Yeah.
Short stories are one of my favourite forms of literature. They tend to deal with the outliers of society. They tend to deal with the kind of underdog and characters on the periphery. So it's always nice to write about those kind of characters, I feel. And also, I mean, again, on a practical level, a short story, short space of time. We've only got 50 minutes in Edinburgh, so a short story seems the way to go. And you can capture a real intensity as well with it, which neither of us particularly familiar with physical theatre, but we figure that it's quite an intense process from things we've seen of Ashes.
It was funny knowing what to write for a physical theatre piece. We didn't know at first whether we were writing movement sequences or...
No, we kept sitting there. We kept sitting there during the writing and going, okay, so here we have a... And that's our interpretation of physical theatre, so hopefully it will turn out better than that. But the adaptation as well, it was nice because, kind of in conjunction with not having writer's block, it meant that if ever we strayed from the path, we always had Pushkin's words to come back to, and a lot of the play, a lot of the good bits of the play are just lifted straight from Pushkin's text. So we stole a lot of big speeches.
I wouldn't say stealing.
Not stealing, but you know, reusing.
There's certain bits that we could not use because the writing's so good, and we didn't think we could write it better. So we have taken some.
And we were dead set on being as faithful to the text as we could, because already we were working from a translation. Neither of us are fluent in Russian. You are. So we were working from a translation anyway. We didn't want to remove it any further from the kind of original text, so we tried to stick as close to it as possible, which was a nice thing about doing an adaptation, because we had some nice, we had kind of a track to go down.
Yes, they are. It was easy to block, wasn't it, what we were going to write, because the story was there in front of us.
Yeah. The hard thing was leaving bits out, because Pushkin's good.
Pushkin's a good guy, I should read him.
To what extent, do you guys think that as a text it's still kind of relevant? Because Edinburgh audiences have a tendency to try and pin relevancies onto things, so where do you think it fits into that?
A modern relevance question. Go on.
I can tackle it, or you can. I mean, well, when we read it, okay, the play the book involves kind of these hard done by characters in society rioting and kind of looting the wealthy, a bit like Robin Hood, but better than that. And we read it, and there's images of fire in the book, right? And we read it, and I couldn't help but parallel it to what happened in London and the major cities in the UK this summer, with the kind of people rioting because they felt hard done by, they felt they'd been treated unjustly, whether it sprang from the shooting of Mark Duggan or whether it sprang from a wider social inequality. These people saw themselves as unfairly treated, and the book touches on a similar theme. But in the book, these people are committing, terrible acts, burning down buildings, like in London, killing people. I don't know if that happened in London. People died. But you still cheer them on, and you want them to do well. And we kind of thought, if you cheer on these characters in the book, then why weren't more people cheering on the rioters over the summer? Is there a difference? Do they have a valid reason for rioting? I don't know. Because we read some accounts of the rioters as well, and when asked why they did it, some of them would, we just wanted a new pair of trainers and stuff like that.
Nothing to lose.
That's Nancy Rice.
Yeah, absolutely. So some people had nothing to lose, so the people in the summer thought they had nothing to lose. People 200 years ago in Russia, in this fictional story, have nothing to lose, and we just kind of wanted to draw that comparison. So hopefully that will come across.
I think it's relevant. Everything's relevant. It's a fantastic story.
Bit of a question from left field. How worried are you guys about what happens to your text when it goes to the directors and the actors? Because obviously you guys as the writers are probably, I don't want to answer for you, but probably quite content to keep it as a text because you're quite happy with it. Do you know what I mean? So
in terms of turning into physical things,
yeah.
to somebody else?
Well, just in terms of it's your child and it's going to another person to start with, but also to what extent do you think that the physical theatre process is going to aid or hinder what you've done, or just all that?
I think we knew from the get-go that it was going to change a lot with the directing process, and I think we've written a text that we're happy with, and that's our work.
Yeah, I mean, even already before it's been put on its feet, the text has changed so much from what we wrote originally. We originally had a cast of a dozen in mind, so we wrote this grand epic sequences of banquets and things like that, and we had to scale it down a bit due to the size of the cast and things like this.
It's changed quite a lot because it's shrunk down from a community style piece to quite small.
Yeah, it's more personal now. So it's already changed, and I mean, we had this discussion when we were naming the play, which is now called With Bitter Passion, and we had this discussion that did me and Becky have the right to name it, or was that kind of everyone's choice? It is Russian, so we could go down a communist route, but no. I use the analogy that it's like, although I hate to think about it, it's like me and Becky having a child and then someone else coming and naming that child for us. Not that it is anything like that, but I mean, who has authority over it now? We've written it and we've given it to someone else to use, so I suppose they can do what they want with it. And the thing with physical theatre is, inevitably, the movements are going to be as, if not more, important than the words. So it'll be interesting to see how it ends up. But we'll be there to give Tash a slap on the back of the head when she needs it and say, do this, do that. Can you tweak this for us? And it'll be a collaborative process to the last, I imagine. So we're not stepping out just yet.
We've not just handed over our script and let people do whatever they want with it. We are guiding.
Are you excited to see it?
Yeah.
No.
I just think our initial excitement and our vision kind of comes across on stage, and everyone else loves it as much as we do, I guess. That's a cheesy answer.
I'm going to stand by my no.
Ending on a slightly happy note, do you think this whole process has brought you closer together? Would you write together in the future?
We are.
Oh God, yeah, we're doing our dissertation, not just us two. No, I mean, it's just. It
has brought us closer, I think.
I don't think it's brought us closer. We were alright mates anyway, and we're alright mates now, Becky will still ring me up and I'll still tell her to go away.
I've learned from this process never to go to an Italian restaurant with Tom and company.
I think we've all learned that. Apologies to our lovely sponsors, BBs.
Phoebe's have invited me back personally, and Tash was very flattered by my offer, is all I can say.
Cheers, guys.